Hi, welcome to the third week of English vocabulary building. As usual, this time also we will see 7 different new words. So let's begin. Here is a quick disclosure on the images that I use in my videos. All these images are gotten from just Google, and I have not given separate credits for each one of these images. So if you feel that I should not be using your images in my video, please write to me. My email address is stellium@gmail.com, and I'll be happy to remove it. Thank you. So here is a quick recap on what we have seen so far. Insouciant. Insouciant means carefree, irresponsible, childish behavior. Breach. Breach means to break a secure boundary. Wreak. W-R-E-A-K. Wreak havoc. For example, a storm wreaks havoc in a city. Another wreak is R-E-E-K. This move reeks of stupidity, full of saturated, full of stupidity. That's what reeks of stupidity means. Connotation, a hidden implied meaning in a sentence. That is what is a connotation. Debilitating, something that is crippling or limiting you, that is called as debilitating. Ramification, branching, right? A decision is a root, and all possible consequences that follows the decision is a ramification of the decision. So usually you weigh through the ramifications before you take a decision. Cliche. Cliche means a very commonly used word to the point of it being very boring. Comeuppance. Comeuppance is a deserved result. If somebody got paid back in their own coin, then you can say that they received their comeuppance. Horcrux. Horcrux is not a regular English word. It comes from the Harry Potter vocabulary. In Harry Potter, Horcrux is a secret place where the sorcerers store their lives, right? So in general, Horcrux can be used to refer to secret places. Reticent. Reticent means very remote. It's not somebody who is very mingling, right? So somebody is reticent means they are not mingling with people. Repartee. A quick witty reply is called as a repartee. Flummox. Flummox means to confuse. Harangue. Harangue means hate speech, verbal tirade. All that comes into harangue. A ton of bricks is a phrase we have seen so far. A ton of bricks means something that is unable to be borne, right? We are not able to bear it. The first word for this week is dire. Dire is an adjective. It can have two meanings. In the first sense, it is used to refer to something that is very serious, dire consequences. In the second meaning, it can be used to describe something that is of low quality. Usually, it is used in a negative connotation in the sense that if somebody warns you of dire consequences, it basically means that they are threatening you, right? So synonyms of dire could be serious, terrible, dreadful, right? Let's see some usage. The principal warned the errant students of dire consequences if the rules and regulations of the school were not followed. The paper quality of the new book was utterly dire, which means that it's of poor quality. This is the second usage. The second word for the week is dearth. Dearth is a noun. It means inadequate, scarcity, as if that was a famine. It is generally used in a negative connotation to indicate that something is lacking. We are missing out something. So that is what dearth means. So synonyms, as I already told you, lack. A lack of something is called dearth. It also has an interesting antonym called plethora. Plethora means plenty, right? We also saw another word which comes close to plethora. What is that? Reek. Reek means full of, saturated. Remember, reeks of stupidity. Reeks of stupidity means there is no dearth of stupidity, right? It's full of stupidity. That's what it means. No dearth. That is the antonym, right? So let's see some usage. The dearth of COVID vaccines plagued the vaccination drive. In this sentence, you can see how I have used dearth, but another interesting thing to note is how I have used plagued. Plague is actually a disease that came from rats. It killed a lot of people in India in the maybe 5 decades before, or I don't know, maybe a century before. It killed a lot of people, plague, right? It affected our population. So in this case, I have used plague as a verb. The dearth of COVID vaccines plagued the vaccination drive. It means that it affected the vaccination drive very badly, just like how plague affected our people very badly. So I'm just taking that noun, I have just converted that into a verb, right? So the dearth of COVID vaccines plagued the vaccination drive. Another example of dearth, another usage of dearth is dearth of medical oxygen and important medicines for treating infection exacerbated the COVID situation in India. Exacerbate is to increase in intensity, right? Is it amplifying some problem? So that is what exacerbate means. Already there is a problem, and this one just blows up the problem, right? That's what exacerbate means. The third word for this week is admonish. ADMONISH. It is used as a verb. It means warning in advance, counsel against something. The connotation is usually positive in the sense we gently tell somebody not do something, right? You persuade them by giving them reasons, or you persuade them by showing them the consequences and admonishing them, do not do this, right? So that is that kind of gentle coaxing somebody, cajoling somebody not to do something by showing the consequences of the action, right? So that is what admonish means. Some of the synonyms are rebuke, censure, upbraid, and all that. If you look at the synonyms, they are not exact synonyms, because all of rebuke, censure, upbraid refers to some intensity in it, right? It's not gentle. If you look at that picture, the picture is not gentle, definitely. The anger shows up on the face. This is not the correct picture for admonish, but just keep in mind that admonishing somebody is gently telling them, right? For example, the teacher admonished him about excessive noise, right? So that is a good usage. All right. Here goes the fourth word, construe. 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 Construe is a verb. It means to interpret a meaning, to deduce a meaning. The general connotation is positive, but if it is used as misconstrue, it has a negative connotation, which means that somebody misinterpreted. We always see this in movies, right? Mr. A goes to a home, and in that home, people in that home misconstrue him to be somebody else, and then a comedy of errors ensues, right? We have seen that a lot in movies. So that is a good example of misconstrue. Synonyms wise, interpret, understand, that's what construe means. And look at the picture. It says, I like to build because I construe it as a worthwhile activity, right? I construe, I interpret it as a worthwhile activity. I consider it as a worthwhile activity. So that is the usage here. There is also one another example we have, the UFO object. UFO means unidentifiable flying object, right? So the UFO, the object is probably redundant here. The UFO object was construed to be an alien spaceship. So far, no one has rebuffed it with the true facts. The fifth word is excoriation. 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 The verb form of it is excoriate. It means to scold vehemently, berate severely. It also has a second meaning, which is to remove the skin. An excoriation could be a medical condition where the skin is like you have a lot of red spots on your skin because the skin has been excoriated, right? Uh, Connotation is negative. You can see it just by the way somebody says excoriation. You know that it is a negative word. And synonyms could be condemnation, detestation, vilification. Vilification is to defame somebody, to show somebody in poor light, to show somebody in as a bad character. That is what vilification means. Damnation, abomination. Abomination is hatred, right? So all of them are synonyms to excoriation. So let's look at some usage. He was subjected to constant excoriations by his abusive parents. I hope nobody goes through all these things. It's just an example. So the second example is my palms were excoriated after I stumbled and fell on the concrete floor. The sixth word for this week is clique. CLIQUE. Clique is a noun and refers to a group of connected people. Um, Generally you can see cliques in even in classrooms. It's a social construct. You will see a group of people who always go together, and they will not allow others to come inside their group. Kind of groupism is it can be called as a it can be construed as a form of groupism, right? Generally, if there is a power center, for example, there is a chief minister's office or prime minister's office, there'll be a group of people who are very close to the high command who manage the complete affairs of that power center. And these people form a clique. and you cannot break into this clique, right? So, and you need the blessings of this clique if you need to get your work done, right? So power centers are always associated with cliques, right? Another example of clique comes from graph theory. You can see that graph I have given in that picture, the second picture. In graph theory, you have a set of nodes which are connected through edges. You see those lines, those are the edges, and the dots, that are the vertices. And you can see there are 7 vertices and several edges in this graph. And one of the common problems in graph theory is to find group of people, a group of nodes which are connected to each other. Right? For example, 1, 2, and 7 form a clique. A triangle forms a good clique, right? Everybody is connected to everybody, right? Similarly, 4, 5, 6, 3, right? All of them are connected to everybody. So 4, 5, 6, 3 is the maximal clique. It's the largest clique in this graph. Although 1, 2, 7 is a clique, but 4, 5, 6, 3 is a maximal clique. So finding the maximal clique in arbitrary graphs itself is a big problem. It's a challenging problem for graph theorists. There are several algorithms to find it and all that. Uh, you can see one of the examples of graph theory you can see is a social network, right? Where people is A is connected to B, B is connected to C, A is connected to C, and so on, right? So that kind of cliques are very popular. For example, if you look at Facebook, it would give you recommendations for friends who had studied in your college. And how does it know that? Because it knows the clique structure. People in the college are all connected to each other. So when it identifies that clique, it's not a complete clique, but it's almost a clique, like 90% clique. Then then it knows that you are not connected to many members of this clique, right? So it will pop up some recommendations to you. Hey, go ahead and complete this missing link, right? So they can give recommendations like that. That is also a clique application of clique, right? Let's see one example of clique in an English sentence. He steadily made his way to the powerful cliques of the Indian politics and started hobnobbing with the who's who of the ruling powerful elite. There's a lot of new words here, but you saw the application of clique here. Another word we saw is hobnob. Hobnob is to, move around with those people, socialize with those people. That is what is called hobnobbing. And who's who is nothing but, who's who is nothing but a list of prominent, influential people in a particular domain. So that is what you refer to them. When you refer to such people, you refer them as who's who of that domain, right? Who's who of Indian politics, who's who of the ruling powerful elite, and so on. All right. Okay, I missed talking about the synonyms of clique. Some of the synonyms of clique are coterie, faction, cabal. Cabal means a group of people who conspire to do something sinister, something really bad, right? They are plotting something. So that is what cabal means. So it has a very negative connotation. Coterie is the same as clique, like a group of people who are impenetrable, right? So they always walk together, have lunch together, go home together, right? So that's a coterie. You can even find coteries in old people, right? Some old people who are retired, they always form a coteries, and they only share information. They don't share information with others and all that. So faction is sounds like fraction, is it not? But it is actually a fraction. Faction is a group of people, is a portion of people in a group, right? And who usually it has a negative connotation, faction, because this subgroup of people, they are not aligned with the major group. They will do something else, right? So, for example, you can see this kind of factions in every political party, right? And they're always associated with troublemakers, right? Some faction would say, we want to go out of the party, we will not support you, and they create a lot of problems for political parties. So generally political parties would never encourage factions. They want to keep all these factions under control and project a very uniform image to the exterior world. But unfortunately, we always have factions everywhere. Human universal cooperation is a dream, but it never happens. People keep fighting. There's so much infighting that happens and all that. So, and all that, the reason behind all that is these factions. The last word for this week is humbug. 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 Humbug can be used both as a noun as well as a verb. It has two meanings. The first meaning is something or someone intending to deceive, falsity. The second meaning is senselessness, devoid of meaning. Right. So it has got two different meanings, and it also has two different usages as noun as well as a verb. The usual connotation is negative. If you call somebody as a humbug, it basically means that you're calling them a cheater, a swindler, a scammer, whatnot. Right? Let's look at one usage. The new investment scheme that promised to multiply the investment 10 times turned out to be a humbug. Of course, it is a humbug. No scheme in the world can multiply your investment 10 times in a reasonable portion of time, a reasonable period of time, right? So, say if somebody is saying, "Oh, give me your money, I'll give you 10 times back," right? It means that he's going to swindle your money. That's all. It's a fraud, right? So, let's look at a second usage in which I have used humbug as a verb. When I went to Spain for the first time, I was humbugged by a group of people purporting to be police officers. Later, I found that they were just local thugs. Here, apart from humbug, you can also see how I have used purport. Purport, import, we have seen before. For what? For which word? Connotation, right? Connotation is the import of what somebody is saying, right? And purport, I had when I was explaining purport, I told that purport is usually used in a negative connotation because purporting means you claim to be something that you are not. That is what is purporting. So in this case, the local thugs were claiming to be police officers. Obviously, they were not police officers, but they were claiming to be police officers. So we can that's the right place to use purport. So this group of people were purporting to be police officers, right? So we learned of quite a few words in this sentence. So that concludes this session. So let's move on and have a quick summary of what we have seen so far and wrap up. So that concludes this session. We saw 7 words this week. Dire, which is serious, dire consequences, or dire could also mean poor quality, right? Dearth referred to lack of, right? Something that is not there. That is what dearth means. Admonish is to gently warn somebody. Construe is to interpret or deduce a meaning. Excoriation is scold very vehemently. That's what excoriation means. It also refers to skin coming out. So you have these red patches on your skin that can also be called as a excoriation. That's a medical term. Right. Then we saw about clique. A clique is a group of people who are well connected and impenetrable. That's a clique. And humbug is a fraud. It can also refers to senselessness. So it can be used as a noun as well as a verb. So that's what we saw about humbug. So that concludes this week. We saw 7 words. I hope it was useful. So see you again next week.